Okay, it's a little noisy here. It's Friday night, late afternoon at a mall in General Santos. It's getting more and more packed with people, but it's my favorite mall because it's not as packed as KCC Mall and other places. It's just berserk in KCC, especially in the market, biggest market I've ever seen, grocery store. Can't even see the end. Even when you're looking down a straight line, it's like looking at the horizon. You can only see 7 miles at a time because it curves. This place is huge. So this is a better fit for me because I like it a little less bonkers. But as you can see, I got earplugs in because too much noise rattles me a little bit inside. But I'm cool if I have a couple earplugs in. But something came to mind I want to share with you. I feel like I need to tell you this and help us get into a discussion, or maybe help somebody, including myself. You know, I'm into self-help mainly. But I want to put this out there in your ears because I had a video chat earlier called My Worldview. I think it's the best worldview, not mine, but a concept. The best way to view yourself, your family, your friends, your culture, your nation, and the world, and other people, other cultures. To frame it in the context of character, not anything else, but the big umbrella of character, good and bad. I think it's the best way to view. But I was talking to a young man here from Britain, and I don't think he'd mind me sharing this, but I can check with him and see. Is that I talked to him about, atheists have a certain framework in defining the world. The context in which they view the world helps define the terms. That, if our viewpoint of the world, our worldview, which I don't like that word, but if your worldview it means the context. How do you contextualize things? How do you get meaning and definition? Because context defines words or points within the context, if you know what I mean. Atheists have their worldview, Christians have their worldview, Jews have their worldview, Muslims have their worldview. Just everybody, and it means we don't have the same definitions of terms. So, for example, the one term came up where the man said, I asked him, about myself and others, and he said, I don't know why he said this. I don't even think we're talking about religion, but he told me he's not religious. He said, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. And I kept probing him with questions to see what his definition of spiritual is and religion. I said, what does religion mean to you? And he said, he talked in whatever way, maybe going to church or believing in God, because he didn't really believe in God, and things like that. And I told him, well, I said, I think you have a religion, because religion to me, in my worldview, in my perspective, the way I define it, using my criteria or some other criteria, objective or subjective, I don't know. That religion means a belief system. I said atheists have a belief system. They have a way of looking at the world. This led to worldview discussion, that worldviews help us correctly or incorrectly define each other, ourselves, how we look at things, how we interpret or judge or conclude about things, people, ourselves, and life. So, and then I asked him, what does spiritual mean? Because I understand spiritual to mean a certain thing as a Christian. And looking at the Old Covenant and New Covenant, what spiritual means. And so I asked him, what does spiritual mean? He goes, so he looked it up in a dictionary online. And I said, well, you're getting your viewpoint from the world, from a dictionary. It's not a religious viewpoint. It's not a Muslim. It's not a this. And he explained things, and there were some very good examples of what spiritual meant. And it had, maybe some of the definitions had something to do with getting in touch with yourself, and all intellectually acceptable, understandable things, but not exactly the way Christianity defines spiritual, or the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, the Jews. I've concluded after studying the scriptures, the Old and the New Covenant, for 35 plus years, it doesn't mean I'm good or bad at it, understanding or not. The devil can read the scriptures and always come up with the wrong answer. That's his modus operandi. So you need to test everything. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to speak perfectly. I have my flaws, and that's how I view each other. I mean, I'm a work in progress. But I told him, I said, what does spiritual mean? And he told me, he looked it up online, and I thought, wow, he's not looking in the Bible, because that's a Bible term, and it's in there, and it has its own context. The Bible's its own worldview or context. So it has its own meaning. That's different than Muslims, different than what he's saying, very different. So I said, what does spiritual mean? What does spirit mean? He goes, oh, it's your soul. I said, you're getting there. I said, in the Christianity, in the Old Testament, New, it says God is a spirit. That means he has no flesh. He has no skin. He's like a person. He's a being. He can walk and talk and think and all this, but he has no skin, no flesh, no skinful nature. That's the biggest difference between me and God, you and God. He is a spirit. It doesn't mean he's invisible. It doesn't mean he has no form. He's like us, because man is made in his image, in his likeness, but we are not as powerful as him. We have a nature that he's never had in heaven. So, but when Jesus came down, he took on the nature of man, which is considered sinful, because the flesh is very tempting, very drives us. It's what's called sensuality. We can become very sensual, very carnal, because we have skin, because the skin drives us to do it. We can have a carnal mind, a fleshly mind, a sensual mind, not a spiritual mind. And I said, what is spirit? He said, it's your soul. I said, yeah, God is spirit. But then I said, in the scriptures, spiritual means a holy man. A holy man. God is a holy man. He's holy. He's a saint. Saint means holy. It doesn't mean somebody did a good work, died, then the whole religious community decided we'll make them a saint, you can pray to them. That's not in the Bible. That's somebody's tradition that isn't even in the Bible. It's not in the Old Testament, it's not in the New. It's an invented, bizarre concept that people love for some reason, because they don't love the Bible. They don't stick to the Word of God. They make up their own words. It's called vain worship. And Jesus said it's meaningless, that you practice the commandments of men and cancel out the commandments of God. That's what that practice does. And so, but my point is not to address or debate or discuss or encourage you on that. The point is, spiritual in the Bible means a holy person. It means he's not into sinning. He doesn't have a logs of sin. He's not a murderer. He's not an adulterer. He's not a fornicator. He's not a thief in the habit of those things. He may have been, but he may have been converted to be godly. A spiritual person is a godly person, meaning he has the nature of God, not in power, but in kindness, compassion, gentleness. He's no longer violent. He's merciful instead of unmerciful. He's patient instead of impatient, meek instead of aggressive. And just that's who God is. He's a tremendously great personality with great personality vibes. And so the spiritual person in the Bible means a holy person. Let me give you one example, and then I'll let it ride and see what you think. But in the Bible, the worldview of the Bible, I'm convinced, if you study it carefully, you'll probably come up with the same conclusion, that a spiritual person in Christianity means a holy person, a holy woman, a holy child, someone that's not in the habit of logs of sin, big sin, practicing big sin. It says in one teaching in the gospel, if any brother's caught in a sin, it means a big sin, a log. It means idolatries, worshiping creatures, idols, Mary, worshiping Mary, which is a creature. She's not God. She's not creator. She's a creature. She was created. I'm a creature. In the New Testament, when they saw Peter come to some Gentiles that needed to be saved through the gospel, hearing the gospel and believing it, they fell down at Peter's feet, and Peter said, "Get up, I'm just a man, worship God." I mean, there's examples in the book of Revelation where one of the apostles, saw a vision of an angel, and he fell at the angel's feet, and the angel said, don't worship me, worship God, because an angel's created. You see, if we worship a person, a saint, or whatever, we're worshiping an idol. So let's say a person is caught in that, but believes in God through Christ, but he's in a big sin, he's going to be condemned. That's not how to worship God. We know that. Anybody that knows the Bible knows that's the issue. Why did the Jews get punished right after they came out of Egypt and got saved? They created a golden calf, a baby calf, and worshipped it and danced and partied around it and said, "This is your God, O Israel." They have quickly committed a great sin. God said, "Get down from this mountain, Moses." Moses threw the tablets in angle and broke them. It says, "Your people committed a great sin." Grande in the Spanish language, grande, a large matter, a log, not a speck. So Moses went down to address it, and he dealt with it from God's will. But my point is, it says, you who are spiritual, go try to restore the one in a certain character vibe. Humility, not arrogance, like I know it's right and you don't. You want to You want to come with humility, all lowliness, but you want to address the issue. You who are spiritual, and it tells you how to behave towards that person and to watch out so you don't follow the same sin. Because a lot of us give in. We're very pleasing to men and not God. We can kind of give in, follow sin just to get along. So it warns us not to do that, even a spiritual person, a holy person. You don't send an unholy person to an unholy person to help them get out of unholiness. Do you follow what I mean? You don't send a big sinner to go save another big sinner. So if you're an idolater, you shouldn't be sent to another sinner, an idolatry, to try to help them out of idolatry. You're as big a sinner as them. Or if you're a fornicator, or you're an adulterer, or you're a liar, or you're a thief, you don't send a Christian thief to go help somebody that's a Christian idolater. They're both equally great sins. They're both condemnable if not stopped and repented of. Like Jesus said to the woman caught in adultery, stop, don't sin anymore, stop it. All right? He didn't say please, he said stop sinning. Don't do it anymore. I forgive you, but don't keep doing it. Otherwise, you know the consequence. So the point is, I don't like the term worldview, but how we view ourselves, how we judge ourselves, how we conclude about you, me, the next guy, our children. I'm saying that how we define terms depends on our worldview, because worldviews are context. Context defines the words in which they're set. It's like a story. The words in the story are defined by its subject, its theme. So it's kind of like the word run. I'll leave it with this example. And so we can become distinct and understand if we're defining something properly. Like if you say I'm spiritual, not religious, you don't know what you're saying. Religion is a belief system. Atheists have a belief system. Scientists have a belief system. Okay? Their church is the scientific room. Atheists, their church is like getting on TV or going in a group meeting about atheists, or going to an atheist camp. They all have their assemblies. Church means assembly. It means to get together. Atheists get together with each other and they talk atheism. Okay, they even have children's camps on it. So don't give me this baloney that you don't have a religion. You have a belief system. So, but our belief system, our framework, determines definitions, and that's where we can get into big trouble. We can misdefine things, therefore misunderstand and get misguided. But it's kind of like the word run. If you look up the word run in the dictionary, it can mean many, many things. R-U-N. Now, if I tell you my context is I'm running to the store, that means I'm not walking, I'm running. Or I could be walking, that my legs are moving. But if I say in another context, another story, my nose is running, it means it's dripping. So it has nothing to do with my legs. So the word run can mean different things based on its worldview, its context, the story in which it's placed. I hope this helps you understand how to define terms.